it's your girl Charlotte V. Manor, aka Aquarius, and today I'm on here to do a full review of the book I gave a mini review to a few months ago, and it's The Wounded Woman, Healing the Father-Daughter Relationship. This book is by Linda Leonard, and I really like this book. I don't have the best relationship with my father, so I recommend it to everyone, men and women, who do not have the best relationship with their fathers. And even if you do, the book will go into how you can have turbulent relationships with the collective father figure, the cultural father figure, and we'll get into that as I go through the review. But it's not just your father, it's the way fatherhood is represented in general. So let's go into what is the father wound. So the author clarifies it as a root injury that stems from a damaged relationship with the father. They may have been wounded by a bad relationship with their real father, or they could be wounded by patriarchy, societies that prefer men and boys, and they can just be wounded by patriarchal philosophies, which itself functions like a poor father culturally, devaluing the worth of women and feminine qualities, even if those qualities affect you in a positive way. Okay, so now that we got all that out the way, the author is a therapist, and she's worked with many women, which inspired her to write this book. And she realized that the root of all of these women suffering of all races and all cultures is a damaged relationship with the father, or the way that patriarchy affects them in their day-to-day lives. Okay, so the book starts with the sacrifice of the daughter. And I really like this because it talks about how in all cultures, per usual, women are going through the same thing. Even if we have good relationships with our father, we're bound to run into someone else's father or hear someone else's father operating on patriarchal philosophies, which can hurt the daughter and be like sacrificing your own daughter. The book is filled with myths and old wives' tales and stories that help her elaborate on how women are affected by their fathers. And she also talks about how women are considered inferior to men, and this is everywhere that there is patriarchy. Women are considered inferior to men, and men who are born naturally feeling tapped into their emotions and having feminine qualities are usually also devalued in favor of men who do not have soft qualities. Okay, it also talks about how a lot of women feel exploited and how it's okay collectively for men to trample over women, and how oftentimes when the feminine enters into partnerships with men or masculinity, they're often conquered and the qualities beaten or negatively encouraged out of them. So negatively would be just trying to encourage someone to get rid of a positive quality, knowing or not knowing that it's going to affect them negatively. When women cannot be themselves, they overcompensate and try to become men, or they just have really low self-esteem because they feel like, okay, how I am naturally is not valued. So I really like that part of the book. Now, the second part of the book talks about the types of daughters, and I'm gonna start off with the daughter that I am, because I feel like this is common in patriarchy for there to be these types of daughters. And we'll start with the eternal girl. Okay, so she breaks the eternal girl into two categories, but first let me tell you what the eternal girl is. So the eternal girl is a woman who psychologically remains a young girl no matter what age, aka the Puella. That's also a name for the eternal girl. This girl remains the dependent daughter spiritually, even if she's physically growing up. She remains the dependent daughter, accepting her identity from what other people project onto her. Now, I found that interesting because how often do women claim not to know who they really are? And that's scary, because if you don't and you're just unconsciously walking around the patriarchy, they will tell you who you are, and oftentimes it will be someone that you're really not. So I like how the book goes into that. I think they use the examples of women who are considered extremely beautiful. They don't know who they are, and when men get their hands on them, they tell these women, you're this, you are my muse, you are meant to be seen and not heard, you're so beautiful, that's what you are. And it's so damaging, because then these women take on the projection, and in the end they just self-annihilate, because they're like, this isn't who I am, but everyone says this is who I am. And I felt that. I honestly feel like there's some Marilyn Monroe in that example. Like, she doesn't use Marilyn, but I'm like, knowing what we know about Marilyn Monroe and Dorothy Dandridge, could this have been them? Okay, women who were told who they are within the patriarchy, and it's like, I'm not this person, but my whole life and survival hinders on me being this femme fatale, this sexy woman, alienated from all the other women because I'm like so beautiful and better than them. So I like how the book goes into how a lot of the celebrities kind of are acting this out, like we're telling them who they are, and it's like, okay, well, I guess this is who I am. But moving on, she gives the Eternal Girl different names, by the way, like the Darling Doll, the Girl of Glass, the High Flyer, the Misfit, Donna Joanna. These names are to highlight how even if we're all eternal girls, we can be different forms of them. And this is where I'm actually going to grab the book to go back to how she classifies some of these women. So the Darling Doll, for example, this is a woman who becomes the image her lover expects her to be, adapting herself to his fantasies of the feminine. Outwardly, she may appear secure and successful and like a powerful princess. She may be the envy of many women's secret wish, but inwardly, her identity is fragile and insecure. For in continually posing for others, she does not know who she really is. And funny enough, the Darling Doll is actually what I would put Dorothy Dandridge and Marilyn Monroe is. Okay, they're usually very beautiful, and like I said before, just women who may not know who they are because they're not given a chance to like explore that, and then they find out, you know, they fit so many men's image and fantasies, and they just take that on and it kind of destroys them. So that was an example of a eternal girl who was a Darling Doll. There's the Girl of Glass. This one is another form of the eternal girl, and she may be shy and fragile and out of life, often living in a fantasy world. Like, so I feel like we all know someone like that. That's the Girl of Glass. And the High Flyer. The High Flyer is usually high achieving, I see. And then there is the Misfit. The Misfit is usually someone's like, I don't fit in, so I'll go be the best with the misfits over there. Okay. And at the end of telling us what the eternal girl is, she also gives you a blurb that is her despair. So if you are an eternal girl, or if you think you may be, you have to acknowledge the despair that comes with being this type of daughter, because usually this type of daughter is born out of having like an absent father and a overcompensating mother who never saw her and like her femininity and things like that. So this type of girl, to heal from the author's perspective, her despair is that she is clinging to absolute innocence or guilt. So this type of woman, she's not trying to grow up because she never got what it meant to be a woman. Her mom is probably her masculine, hence the absent father he may not have been there, or if he was there, he was like nothing compared to the mom who may have had to take on masculine qualities if he could not take them on in a healthy way. So she says for the eternal girl to heal, you will have to consciously name your suffering, because a big part of the eternal girl is literally not seeing her suffering in its totality. She may have glimpses of where it comes from, but she cannot pinpoint it. So she needs to consciously name her suffering and give it meaning. Okay, the eternal girl has the power to tap into many possibilities, okay? Because the situation with her father is so rocky, she never feels safe enough to tap into her limitless potential. So behind the innocence of the eternal girl, who can be any age, from young to old, it doesn't matter, a lot of it is trying to hold on to the innocence, because you do not know how to blossom into this woman and use your full powers to benefit you. So along with that comes nasty manipulation that the author talks about. A lot of times the eternal girl may be trapped in innocence and guilt, but her superpower when she's in that shadowy space, not operating from a healthy place, is that she could be the most manipulative bitch you'll ever meet. Okay, she can get people to do her bidding for her. She can weaponize tears, because like we said, these women were never like allowed to grow up or become women, or no one was there to guide them through the transition. And believe it or not, just because you grow up doesn't mean you got the adequate tools to navigate the world. Hence, we're in the age of OnlyFans and so many other things. These are ways for the eternal girl to survive without her father, who wasn't there to protect her, and a mother who may have been overcompensating so much that she never gave her daughter the keys to womanhood. Not out of maliciousness, or it could be, but mostly out of her own ignorance. Like, if she's overcompensating, chances are she's not happy, she's not feminine, she's not at peace. How can she show her daughter how to be these things? So that was the first type of daughter. And the second type of daughter is the armored Amazon. So this daughter is the opposite of the eternal girl, but they both have daddy issues. And remember, within it, they have even more categories. Like the eternal girl had the darling doll and the misfit. The armored Amazon has her own. It's the superstar, the dutiful daughter, the martyr, and the warrior queen. So with this one, you can see that these women tend to have more masculine energy, but they still have a deficiency being a woman. So according to the author, the armored Amazon daughter is Miss Independent. Unlike the eternal girl, she reacts against the father, who is inadequate or just tyrannical, and therefore by reacting so strongly, she actually ends up identifying with the ego of the father, even to her own detriment. So usually the armored Amazon daughter had an irresponsible father. He could be emotionally neglectful. This father may have had something to prove and didn't succeed, therefore his daughter takes up that stick, like, I'm gonna be what my father couldn't be. And this is where you get like Miss Independent, I don't need a man, and if I have a man, like, you know, he gonna sit down and listen type of women. So this type of woman may grow up to devalue her femininity and the femininity in others. Hence what you see out here in the world, a lot of high achieving women, some of them look down on women who may not have, they may look down on the eternal girl. Marilyn Monroe, Dorothy Dandridge, they had a lot of women who look down on them, right? Women who may have been housewives or other high achieving women who look down on them. So these type of women tend not to value femininity, and they are cut off from their feelings and intuitive feminine qualities. So these women have overcome what the eternal daughter hasn't. But again, the eternal daughter usually has her, she can manipulate like no other, she can weaponize those tears, and she may be able to seduce the men that the armored Amazon tend to step all over, because like we said, this one tends to be in conflict with the ego of the masculine. So in a way, she may view herself as being better than them, because I'm a woman, I had to work twice as hard to get here. What can a man really do for me? So yeah, the type of armored Amazons, like I said, the superstar, the dutiful daughter, the martyr, and the warrior queen. And again, I'll look in the book to give you quick definitions of each one. So the dutiful daughter is like, so this is a pattern that she usually falls into, usually picking up the slack behind her parents. This type of daughter loses her innocence quite early. She tends to be exhausted, working multiple jobs young, having to play therapist to her mother or father. Okay, so yeah, the dutiful daughter just finds herself in service of others, even to her own detriment, usually neglecting herself, even if it's not physically, just neglecting her spirit that should be nurtured so that she could be more soft and feminine and creative. And so this woman may be more logical and yeah, just not tapped into how to be creative, because again, that's usually associated with the feminine. Okay, the next daughter would be the martyr, which is similar to the dutiful daughter. The martyr, unhappy, not going to do anything about it, feels like it's their role to suffer so that other people they care about can be happy. And you have the warrior queen. This one, she's a fighter. She may be a millionaire by 35, okay, but have issues being in unions with a masculine counterpart. And then, yeah, I'll just leave it there. There is the warrior queen, but again, that's another high achieving. The despair that comes from being the armored Amazon daughter is that you see men as weak and impotent and as beings that need to be controlled. So it's like the flip side of like toxic masculinity. So they're still women, but they're taking in like male philosophies and patriarchal philosophies and just flipping it on its head. Men are weak, men are impotent, they need to be controlled, because if they aren't controlled, they'll be out of control and things like that. So to heal being the armored Amazon daughter, you need to realize how trapped you are. You need to free yourself from the lie that you have to be like men to have power in this world. And you need to heal that belief that anything feminine will be used to subjugate you, right? So it really is in conflict with the father and patriarchy, feeling like you will be defeated and enslaved if you give in to your feminine side. And I see, and I get it, because the armored Amazon became that way because what she saw of men, she was not here for it. And she's like, I'm gonna go the complete opposite way. Like, I'm gonna take the positive qualities of being a man, strength and stuff, but I'm gonna leave it at that. I'm gonna take those qualities, become better than men. And they get so trapped in the cycle that they forget that in the end they still are a woman, and you can master all these masculine qualities, but if you do not heal that father wound and how men have affected you, you can become rich and successful, but you'll always just feel like something is missing. That was The Wounded Woman. It's so much more deeper than what I said. So I do encourage like all women to get this book. Like, it was a breath of fresh air when I read it. And at the end, they do have like more tips. For example, rage. Men and women, if you have issues with your father, you have to get through this rage stage. And she talks about how to do that without destroying your life, because rage hides in the body. And it could turn into depression, and it could turn into like chronic illness. And yeah, the rage needs to be recognized and released. So there is a whole chapter on rage, the hurting, feeling your emotions, okay? It says the princess, the daughter, takes responsibility for her rage. And be the princess that picked up the frog and threw it into the wall, because when you throw that frog into the wall, your feminine instincts will take over. So she uses it to say that you were once a helpless girl, and the men around you may not have protected you and did the things they needed to do to keep you innocent, but that does not define who you are as a woman. So I really like how she does that. The tears, there's a chapter about the tears, because there will be a lot of crying when you realize how you may feel your father or society, collective fathers, have let daughters all around the world, feminine sons all around the world, down. Some fathers are afraid of their own tears, therefore they don't allow others to show their tears and weaknesses. I mean, how often have we've seen women cry to men, and like there's just nothing, there's no nurturing to meet you back like that. So a lot of times women are traumatized by that. It's like, I broke down in front of this person and like there was just no nurturing or anything like that. So that is real. The book also talks about how fathers can sell out their daughters, and this can be very traumatizing. There are instances in this book where some women have been sexually violated by their fathers, and that is so sad, because it talks about how it's such a long journey back home. If you even heal from that, it's such a long journey. Yeah, she will guide you through that in this book. Feelings are meant to be felt. They will not destroy you. It may feel that way, but yeah, your feelings are meant to be felt so you can get through it. A lot of the times illnesses are born because people just won't sit down and feel those emotions. So yeah, I could talk about this book forever. I'll leave it there. Redeeming the Father is like one of the last few chapters, and then finding the feminine spirit. And yeah, so I do encourage this book for men and women who have issues with their dads, because all men have a feminine side, even if they denounce it, suppress it, and never tap into it. And all women have a masculine side and a feminine side, for the women who are too into the masculine. But for the women who aren't, you have a masculine side, and healing your father wound will get you one step closer to tapping into the masculine power that can help you go about bringing all of these physical things into reality. So yeah, that was The Wounded Woman by Linda Leonard, and I do recommend it for all daughters and sons, because like at the end of the day, we all have masculine and feminine in us. And even if you had the best father, chances are you don't like how society is run, which is like runs like an overbearing father. You're gonna do what I say or be annihilated. So yeah, again, I'm Charlotte V. Manor, aka Aquarius, and I will see you all in the next video.